Hi, buddy. Hi, I'm Madeline Rosenberg of Ballyhoo Farm and Fiber Emporium, and this is Basil. Today I'm going to be shearing him the way that I normally do in person at Gardener's Fair. I use hand shears instead of electric because they are lighter, more comfortable for me, more comfortable for the animal, quieter. They don't require as much maintenance. They don't require electricity, so I can use them literally anywhere. I can use them on site at Locust Grove and be period correct, because this is the first and oldest form of shearing sheep. This process is exactly like you getting a haircut. It does not hurt the sheep at all, provided I don't nick or cut him, which sometimes happens, especially on black sheep because you can't see their dark skin under the dark wool, especially if there's a shadow. The trick is practice. The more bodies you get your shears on, the easier it is to tell the topography of the animal's body. As long as I keep these blades flat against his skin, there's no way I can cut him. Basil usually gives us between 3 and 4 pounds of wool a year. Being that he's a Shetland, this is the only time this year that he'll get shorn. You might see him wagging his tail throughout. That's a sign of pleasure and displeasure. He doesn't much care for being stuck on the stand, but he went to State Fair a few years back and won a respectable second place to one of our other rams, who is now at Shaker Village. So if you go to Shaker Village, ask about Legolas. He came from our farm too. The other breeds that we raise here at Ballyhoo that are shorn multiple times a year are Icelandic and Gotland. And it's just based on the amount of fleece on the animal. We shear them in spring before it gets real hot for their comfort. And then we shear them again in fall because we base it on what's called staple length, which is the length of each individual fiber. And if it exceeds a certain amount, it's likely to felt or bind together, making it very uncomfortable for the animal. Shearing is necessary for wool sheep. We've been breeding them for about 11,000 years to produce wool and not shed it. So that's not something that would naturally disappear if we just release sheep into the wild. Sheep can go what's called wool blind, which is where the wool grows up over their eyes. And you've seen that on TV with sheep in Australia that escape shearing for long periods of time. The fleece is also a moist environment. You probably can't see on the camera, but my hands are getting nice and soft and greasy from the lanolin that's in the raw wool. Lanolin is also used in pharmaceuticals and cosmetics like lotion and lip balms. And because it's a moist environment and we live in a humid climate, it's also dangerous to leave the wool on because it can trap bacteria and parasites and cause wool rot. So this, in addition to being a sustainable fiber, this is also a health and safety thing for the sheep. And I'm not going to show it on camera today, but at the same time that we shear, the sheep also get a pedicure. So he had his hooves trimmed. And we'll do that a couple of times a year. It's very different to be doing this on camera instead of in person for all of you. Oops, sorry, Dad. We do have yarn that includes Basil in our shop. If you look up Ballyhoo Morit at ballyhoofiberemporium.com, we do have some skeins that have him in it. Yeah, and you're in it too, Fleur. Actually, Fleur is in our Ballyhoo Black. So the animals change a little year to year depending on temperature and age and a variety of factors. And you can see how much lighter Basil is on top than underneath, but he is significantly darker than he was last year. Fun fact, you may recognize Basil from Locust Grove's children's video if you've gotten to see that. He features along with Coconut and her lambs Filbert and Hazel, Mouse, and a few other fan favorites. Now you'll notice Basil's starting to dance around a little bit and chew and lick his lips. That's his sheepy way of telling me, be careful there, buddy, you're near my neck and important stuff. I know, bud. So other things that we do with this wool besides make yarn, we can use it for felted items, for stuffing like in pillows. Anybody who knows about antique furniture knows they stuffed couches and such with wool. That's why antique furniture is often so heavy. We can use this for house insulation, animal bedding. We can use it for potting and in the garden. And for more about that, you can look up our Gardener's Friend wool. My mom and I made a hanging basket with it. And all of these things are available at ballyhoofiberemporium.com. And every dollar you spend with us goes to supporting sheep like Basil and Fleur. Trying to think what other questions have been asked of me in the past. This does take a lot of trust on the animal's part to stand this still and let me do this. He's only restrained around his head, and you can tell I don't even have the top chain over his nose. And he's choosing to stand here for me. That's the relationship that I've built with my animals. And you know, they've been through it a few times. So Basil is 5 years old, I think, this year. So we've done this a couple of times. But just like you sitting in the barber's chair, they learn it's no big deal. And this is what we call low stress livestock handling. He's not bothered, I'm not bothered. And if he was, we would do something to make him more comfortable. Within reason. I mean, there's only so much I can do. That's another reason I like the hand shears. Can you scoot over, bud? Good boy. Because on the very jumpy first time shear lambs, I have more control if they start to fuss and dance around. Well, the Cron family did raise wool sheep. They almost certainly did not raise Shetlands, but Shetlands were a very popular breed at the time. Shetland sheep originate from the Shetland Isles in Scotland, where they've been growing wool since the Vikings, probably 8 to 1100 BCE, somewhere in there. They are naturally short-tailed, so we do not dock. They come in a wide variety of colors and markings. And traditionally, Shetland could be spun so fine that it could be knitted into a shawl, a lady's shawl that would pass through a wedding ring. I know, bud. Don't worry. And just like that, he's naked. Let's trim up your belly a little. I like to save the belly for last because it's got the most junk in it, you know, from the animal getting up and lying down. and so it dulls my blades quicker. So I'd rather sharpen them at the end than in the middle. Whoop. Basil is a ram. He still has all his bits and bobs. And unlike humans, it's not back here, it's right in the middle. Is that too close? Sorry, bud. There we go. I know. Don't worry. You see all that tail shaking because I'm getting close to things. Hold still. All right. Good boy. Yes, you're handsome. So that's it for Mr. Basil. Come on, bud. You can hop down. This part he likes. You're a good boy. All the parts he hasn't been able to scratch for himself. Oh. That's great, huh? That's great. You want to hop down? Look up. Shearing is not stressful. Come on. Come on, bud. No. You're all done. Get this way. Say bye, everybody.